Hello, it is Heather from The Reading Mama, and today I thought I would do a book tag. I'm going to try to do Tag Tuesday. I've been kind of floundering with some of my videos, so I thought, let's take April and just do Tag Tuesdays. And I know it's not quite April yet, but whatever. So today I'm going to do the Bookish Bucket List Tag. And some of these feel kind of weird to me because bucket lists are just like not my thing. I don't know. I think it's just an indecisiveness, but bear with me. I'll try to go through these. So, and I will put all of the questions and prompts down below. This is from Zack at Shady Side Library. He's the one who originated it, but I heard about it on Suzanne Jackson's YouTube channel. My goodness, words are just not my friend today, apparently. So this may be an interesting video. So book one, if you could meet one author, dead or alive, who would it be? And there are so many great choices. And I was thinking about it, and you know, obviously the people who author the Bible, that would be great, but I'll get to meet them someday. So I'm not too worried about that one. That one's going down. But recently I've started reading Madeleine L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time series. And I am just, because it is my second read through of the first book, and now I've read another one, I am seeing so much depth to it. And I've read some other quotes and some like articles by her, and I'm just like, I'm very interested in her right now. I really would love to just sit and talk fiction and Christian morals and, you know, the state of the world. And I just feel like that would be a really fun conversation. There's a lot of other people too, but that right now is the person I'm thinking I would love to just sit and chat with her. What book have you always dreamed of owning, not necessarily reading? Well, I have read them, but I am in the process of purchasing the Tundra versions of the Anna Green Gables series. I have 4 out of the 7, and I really need to get a better one. So these are the like Canada printing Tundra books. Yeah, so Tundra, Penguin Canada, and they're just so beautiful. I saw them on Chantel's channel and I was just like, I need that pretty copy. And so I need to get a new one for Anne because I can only get these used here really for a decent price. And this one came in less than great shape, but the other ones came in really beautiful shape. Look at that. Look, oh, that's so beautiful. I love it. And I really, really want what's the one with her and Gilbert on the front? That is so pretty. So that is what I'm collecting, is the Tundra version of those. There's a couple other books, like would it be nice to have them in a pretty format? Maybe. I'm not, like the sprayed edges are pretty and stuff, but they're not like my thing. Shelf space is my thing. So I get a lot of paperbacks. And then what is one book you think that everyone should read before they die? So this is tricky. So you could go a lot of different ways. And so I have fiction and nonfiction choices here because I don't have one book, because that's me. I just can't. I really think fiction wise, I think you can't go wrong with Lord of the Rings, which it's hiding somewhere behind me. And I have just the cheap mass market paperbacks. Those would be nice and pretty version. But anyways, I digress. Lord of the Rings, I think, is just so rich and beautiful and wonderful. And I think everybody would suggest that. A lot of people would suggest that one. But also, I think Pilgrim's Progress is just a beautiful story. I have read it so many times with my kids, reading it aloud to them like every other year for the past decade. And then we've read like kids versions in between. So it's just got so much great things to discuss, to ponder, to think about, and it has come up in our life over and over and over since then. If I was going to pick a nonfiction, I have so many choices because I have caveats, okay? So like if I just want like a secular nonfiction book, I would say Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman would be phenomenal. Now like Tech-Wise Family is okay, but I feel like this, it hits all the things, even though it's dated. This particular version has his son's like a little update, but really I think there's just so much that you can glean from this. If I was going to say just for a Christian in general, I would recommend Torture for Christ by Richard Wurmbrand. The reason I have this as a caveat is it is not for the faint of heart. Okay, if you don't know about Richard Wurmbrand, he was Richard Wurmbrand was repeatedly arrested for his faith and was tortured. He really was, and he talks about it. But what I love about this story, what I love about Richard Wurmbrand, who is also the founder of Voice of the Martyrs if you're a Christian and you know of that foundation, Richard Wurmbrand, throughout this book, over and over and over, he does not slander his captors. He does not berate them or break them down. He tells it in plain facts what happened, and he begs and yearns and pleads for their souls, as he did with them while he was captured. He is just a beacon of light for God over and over and over. And what I love is, you know, you could read this, come around and say, oh, communism bad, because that's his point. His point is, it is not the communist, it is the communism doctrine. And he tells it over and over and over, and seeing it firsthand. If you don't know him and his wife Sabina, which her book is phenomenal also if you're interested, they were Jewish people who somehow managed to escape the Holocaust, living in Romania. And then they were, you know, Jewish by birth, not really practicing. And then they became Christians, got saved, just in time for the Soviets to come in and take over with their communist regime, which is very anti-God. And he tells specific examples of it. And these are all corroborated by other people. He testified before court here in America. You can check out a documentary about him, and all kinds of things. They have it documented, okay? And it is just, his love for people is just phenomenal in the spite of so much hardship. They lost their child. They were both imprisoned. Still love God. Still love the people. Still pleading for them to trust in Christ, even as they do horrendous things to him. Phenomenal. I think everybody should read it. However, it's not for the faint of heart, okay? It is not for the faint of heart. If I was going to try to pick a Christian book for somebody who is maybe a little more squeamish, then, you know, the obvious answer would be The Hiding Place. I think Corrie ten Boom and any of her writings would be phenomenal. But if you are a squeamish Christian and you are like, what's the one book I should read? And you don't want to read Hiding Place, or you already have, Evidence Not Seen by Darlene Deibler Rose. There is one section that is a little squeamish because there's some jungle rot. I'm not going to get into it because it is a little gruesome. But she was a prisoner of war in the Pacific Theater during World War II. And her testimony for the Lord, again, beautiful, beautiful. Like I said, if you've already read Hiding Place, try Evidence Not Seen. That is just the amazing ways that God showed up in impossible situations for this woman and in her family. And yeah, it was a phenomenal read. It's one that I have reread again. Now I've read it twice. I'm having all my kids read this story along with The Hiding Place. But it is just phenomenal. And then if you're like, I'm a homeschooler, you know, what's the one book you make sure all your kids read? And I was thinking about it because there are some books that I'm like, oh, I think everybody should read this. But, you know, I have a kid who really doesn't like this particular thing or whatever. And so they don't always hit. But there is one book that I have all my kids read, and I don't have a fancy cover because I got it used. And it's called Understood Betsy. And I have them read it in 2nd grade. And it starts out slow. It is a very slow start. Like, I remember reading it aloud and being like, maybe we should quit. And my kid was like, yeah, let's quit. But we didn't. We persevered. We found a better audio version because the first time whenever we have a hard book, we try an audiobook. And the first audiobook was horrible. I was like, well, this is not helping the story. But we continued, persevered. And about 6th, 7th chapter, it got really good. And it is phenomenal. It is a beautiful story of a young girl who's been orphaned living with her aunts. And you think everything's kind of hunky-dory, you know, things are kind of strange. She doesn't really fit in with anybody. She's very coddled. And what I think is funny is when you have other mothers get together and talk about this book in homeschool circles, usually they are like, yeah, I thought the aunt at the beginning who was doing all those things was like, yeah, that's the way you're supposed to parent. And then you get partway through the story and you're like, oh, she wasn't doing it right. Ooh, and you have to start rethinking everything, and it's awesome. But kids love it too because things happen. And she has to leave the 2 aunts that she's living with because there's an illness and so they need to go to the sea. Why don't doctors prescribe that anymore? Anyways, they have to go away. They can't take care of her. So she goes to live with family who live in a very rural area, and she learns all kinds of different things about people, interacting with people, and life in general. And it is just beautiful. It's a lot of fun. It's a very short read. My kids love it. But that's my kid one that everybody should read. All right. Now that I've way cheated on that question, let's move on. Name something you have plans to check off your bookish book list before the year ends. I don't really have a bookish book bucket list for the year. In life, there are two things I would love to do. I would love to do the Little House on the Prairie tour. I know the books have some flaws, okay, but they're real life, they're real people. That's what happened to them in a lot of the situations, okay? So take that into account. But I would still love to travel. My kids and I have a dream of seeing Pawsville. Also, I would love to go to the Lake District and visit all those authors' homes. This particular year, bucket book list is to read a lot more of my physical TBR because way too many of these books are unread. And that is for the end of the year. That's my thing. What book series have you always wanted to read or complete reading? So basically, if there's a series, I have a whole list of series. I love series. If you notice, I am a binger. Once I start a series, I have to finish the series. One that I want to finish just because I want to finish it. And I don't, oh wait, I have it over here. I want to finish the Space Trilogy. I don't love it. I haven't loved book 1 or 2. I hear that Hideous Strength of book 3 is the best. I want to finish it. I need to finish it. So I'm putting it on my TBR for next month, if you noticed that in my last video. I would also love to reread Lord of the Rings. I've only read it once. I read it just a couple years ago, and like that was a big deal to me. And even though I did it through audiobook, that was like my first major reading, and I really loved it. And so I would love to reread that. What Booktube video have you always wanted to make? I would like to make ones where I'm able to better analyze the books. I feel like some of you do just like an amazing job sharing and knowing and talking about books, and I'm like, yeah, this happened and I can't remember the character's name, and I would like to do that better. So that's kind of where I am. What is a genre you have always wanted to read? I don't know that there is, if there's a genre I want to read, I read it. And if you've watched some of my videos from this year, I've been reading in genres that I said I would never read from, and I've enjoyed it. So it's just finding the right book, right? But one that I always like reading is sci-fi. I loved reading it when I was younger. My dad was very sci-fi. If you've watched some of my first videos on here, I am reading sci-fi now in regards to my dad. Like every sci-fi book I read, I'm like, oh, dad would love this, or dad would hate this, or this is like that show that dad made me watch, you know? And so sci-fi is like the one that I struggle to read because there's a lot of things that go against what I believe as a Christian. So it's hard to find ones that I really love. I'm starting to find some Christian science fiction, which is awesome. And if you have great Christian science fiction, drop it below. I really loved, where did it go? It's below, you can't see, sci-fi is on the bottom shelf. I really loved, well, I grabbed the last one, but I really loved the Children of the Consortium series. I really enjoyed that. I love Dystopian, which is also considered sci-fi. I enjoyed Dune, Project Hail Mary, Fahrenheit 451. I loved all of those books. So sci-fi is like my genre that I'm really enjoying relearning. If you could have an ARC advanced reading copy of any upcoming book, what would it be? I would say it would be book 3, because I already got the ARC for book 2, which is Hunt of Calypso. And this is the Count of Monte Cristo retelling, which is beautiful, dark fantasy by a Christian author. So everything's clean, no spice. And book 1 was phenomenal. I got the ARC for book 2. It is amazing. Go order it. It's coming out at the end of April. Hunt of Calypso, it was so much better than this. Let's just say Magical Pirates. Come on, who doesn't love this? And so I'm eager to have book 3, which I know she's still writing, but if I could have an ARC, that would be what I want. So put that back in my April TBR because I'm rereading it. If you could do a buddy read with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and what would you read? Let me just edit this. If you could do a buddy read with anyone, dead or alive, I would pick my dad. And I would love to read Project Hail Mary with my dad, or any really sci-fi, but I feel like he would love this. And the new movie coming out, I haven't seen it. I guess it's out. I don't go to theaters. I don't have that kind of money. I spend it on books. So I wait till it's streaming, or the library gets it. But I am very excited about the movie. My dad would be like, he would have been there opening day. He would love this story, and I would love to read that with him. And the last one is name a book you've always wanted to read. So I don't know. Oh, I think it's buried. You can't see it. But behind here, I have Lawrence of Arabia. And I did start it. I made a pretty good dent in it. But then I found some things out about him, and I'm like, I got kind of mad at him, so I stopped reading it. But right now, it's Count of Monte Cristo. I've always wanted to read it. I've started it multiple times and stopped because the first chapter is a little bit of a doozy, and I didn't love it. So I kept stopping and stopping and stopping. And so I got the audiobook version. and start reading it. Somebody told me, get the audio, then read that way. So I started reading it, but it's like 47 hours audiobook, and I have a lot of other books that I'm reading at the same time. And this one made me take breaks because the characters and the story is so great. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like very angry and vehement. And it's not a book that I can read with constant interruptions. So I have to do it like when like we're driving and the kids are listening to their own audiobook and I can listen to it, or I can sit down and read it without interruptions. Like all of them have gone to bed, which is like never. So it's going to take me a while to get through it, but I do really enjoy it now that I did get into it. And part of that is because of, where did it go? Aaron Phillips' Betrayal of Eden, which is phenomenal retelling of it. Also, somebody pointed out another YA fantasy book that I read a few years ago that I loved, Calculated by Nova McBee, which the last installment comes out this summer. So actually, I would like the arc of that. Let me go back and answer that question. I want the arc of that. But that is also a Count of Monte Cristo retelling, and I didn't realize it until afterwards. So I've only seen the movie with Jim Caviezel. I'm watching kind of the PBS version. I watched the first one. It got interrupted like 15 times by storm warnings because it's public broadcast. So I didn't get it. So missed half of that because of the warnings. And last night I fell asleep during it over and over and over. Basically, my husband would be like, oh, and he'd comment on it. And I'm like, what's going on? So yeah, 10 o'clock is when it comes on here and I cannot watch it. But I am enjoying rereading it. This is the book I've always wanted to read. Hopefully I'll make it by the end of the year. I would love to read it sooner than December, but yeah, it's a lot. So that's my bookish bucket list. If you want to join, I probably won't tag anyone. I'll just be honest, because I don't want to force people to do things they don't want to do or feel obligated to do so. It's my Midwestern heritage here, sorry. So if you would like to join, consider yourself tagged and the prompts will be below. And thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day.